Hello and welcome to Amethyst Star Crafting. My name is Jane Allmark and I'm a UK independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. And we're going to be using the Stampin' Up envelope punch board again. I absolutely love this for doing lots of projects. And we are going to revisit something which is bow making. Now, I have made some very pretty small bows. And if you notice that the actual tails of the bow are a lot smaller than the actual ribbon. Now, when I've been making bows, I quite often find that the tails just look a bit too big. And when I want them just on the top of a project, I want some tiny tails. So I thought I would show you how to very simply make the bows and how to then tweak them so that the tails are going to be a little bit different. So you need a strip of cardstock, DSP, and this piece measures 7 inches in length by, this is 7/8 of an inch. Now 7/8 of an inch is, if you take 1 inch and just go back one little point, that's your 7/8 of an inch. So we are going to just line it up on the envelope punch board at 1.5 inches, punch it, flip it over, line it up at the 1.5 and punch it again. Then we're going to slide it across to 3.5 inches, punch it, flip it over, 3.5 inches again and punch it. And then from the other end, we're going to go at 1.5 inches again. So just literally punching it, flipping it over, and 1.5 inches, punching it and flipping it over. Now I will put these dimensions down in the description box for you because I know that some people like that. Now quite often you will put your edge in, which we can do like this, line it up as best you can and then punch it and it will give you your little tail. So we're going to do the other end as well, and again it is a matter of sort of eyeballing it because there's no gauge to that. So as accurately as you can and then punch it and you've got your tail. Now let me just get rid of these little tiny pieces here, and that's all we need the envelope punch board for. So let me just pop these bits in the bin. Okay, so now we have a piece like this. Now what I want to do is to trim these pieces down a little bit because I don't want big huge tails. So the easiest thing is to just literally take a tiny sliver off each side, because you've already got your punched piece of your tail out. It's quite easy to just trim it up just a little bit. You can trim it as much or as little as you want, but I just sort of eyeball it and take just a sliver off of each side, which to me balances the bow a little bit better. So if I show you, that's the sort of sliver. It's only a little bit, and play around with it and see what you like. Then we need to get our bone folder, and you just need to just gently bend the paper. Now, because the gap here is very small, it's about the smallest that you can manage on the envelope punch board to get the smallest size bow. You need to hold it carefully and just be gentle with your manipulation. If you're too rough, then you'll break it. And then you just need to bend that little piece out and that little piece out just gently, because they are going to stick in on this side and stick in on that side like that. So I am going to use some wet glue. As you know, I use wet glue for absolutely everything. You can use a glue dot, but I find that the glue dots can sometimes just stick out a bit, so I do like to use my wet glue. I've bent this quite a lot, so I'm just going to pop some wet glue on either side here, and then just going to push these pieces in just on the side, not quite touching, but just sort of either side, and then just hold them down just for a few seconds, just for the glue to take. As I say, I've been making bows for quite a while now, and I've always thought that sometimes the tails just look a bit too big on a project, and I wanted to try and create the smallest bow that I possibly could on the envelope punch board without breaking that little piece in the middle. So as I say, just a little tad shy of an inch is the smallest that you can get. Now, because we've got these little pieces just hanging out here, what I do is I just run a little bit of wet glue just up on there, just in a little line. And then that will just hold those tail pieces down. As I say, you can use a glue dot if you want to. And this is where I turn it over, and just holding my finger, I just make sure that my tails are lined up the best that I can. Then I just hold it down for a second until that has taken. Now again, you can decorate this by putting a gem or a you know, a jewel or something like that in the center. However, I quite like doing as you would be tying a bow, having the piece in the center. So a little tiny weeny scrap, you really don't need much at all, and you are just going to snip off a small piece. Now, I'm saying a small piece because in reality you just need to make sure that it'll go down the center like this. And then all I'm going to do is to just add a little bit of wet glue along here. Oh, give it a shake. There we go. And then we are just going to put this across the center as if the bow was being tied, because I think that just finishes it off nicely. So just sort of hold it, and way, got glue everywhere now, haven't I? It's quite fun doing little tiny projects like this on camera. So just bend that over the back like that and just hold it down in like that. And then take your other piece and just fold that over on the top like that. And as I say, just hold that down for a second or two. Says me with a lot of sticky glue. And there you have a very pretty bow with your tails that aren't too big. Let me just, oops, I've got glue on my hands. Let that go. Right, I'm going to try and bring it up as near to the camera as I can, but you can see the tails on that aren't as big as if you had just left it the same size. And I find that for me is just a little bit more pleasing on a project. I quite often don't want great big huge bows. So that one was done with the Joyous Noel designer series paper. This is the Merry Merlot. This one again was, and this was the smallest I could get it. This was actually done at 3/4 of an inch in width, and it was just about possible, but did look a little tiny in the center. And there again, there's another one done out of designer series paper. So a very simple way of doing a bow on the envelope punch board, but just finishing it off with the little piece down the center and just cutting your tails down a bit. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and do look forward to seeing you again. Bye bye.